Creative babble.
So I produced 4 bonus episodes called LaDonna's Surrogates, and it's all about the people who support LaDonna Humphrey at all costs. And they were supposed to be Patreon and Pretend Plus on Apple Podcasts only episodes, but honestly, they were too good to keep them from you. So I'm going to release it here on the main feed for you to listen to. But just know that this is the kind of content that I want to produce for my subscribers. And if you enjoy the show and you support independent journalism, then I would be grateful if you supported Pretend at least for 1 month. Just $3. That's a cup of coffee. Heck, that might be even cheaper than a cup of coffee. But anyway, there's 4 episodes. The last one's a banger. All 4 episodes are available right now for my Apple Podcast supporters on Pretend Plus and Patreon. All right, without further ado, here's part 1 of LaDonna's Surrogates. The main Who's Afraid of LaDonna series might be over, but I'm not done reporting on this case. Like I said previously, I plan to continue this series on Patreon and Pretend Plus on Apple Podcasts because things are developing every single day. In fact, there are some huge developments brewing even as we speak. So don't kid yourself. We're not done with LaDonna quite yet. There are even some side stories that I didn't get to on the main episodes that are worth mentioning. And one of those stories is what I'm about to present to you today. We're going to talk about a blog, but not just any blog. It's a website primarily focused on posting mugshots of recent arrests in and around Fort Smith, Arkansas. It looks like something out of 1995. Think GeoCities or early days of AOL. But we're not here to talk about crappy website design. Oh no. This site is a forum for LaDonna Humphrey to attack and re-victimize the people accusing her of harassment. Much like her rebuttal podcast, this website is designed to inflict pain and to humiliate everyone and anyone who has ever crossed her. This episode will be broken up in 2 parts. Part 1 will feature an interview I had with Anthony Christopher, who has been the #1 target of this blog. And Part 2 is going to focus on the man behind the blog, Dennis McCaslin. I'm Javier Leyva, and this is Pretend. Stories about real people pretending to be someone else.
Hey, Prime members! Are you tired of ads interfering with your favorite podcasts? Good news! With Amazon Music, you have access to the largest catalog of ad-free top podcasts included with your Prime membership. To start listening, download the Amazon Music app for free or go to amazon.com/ad-free podcasts. That's amazon.com/ad-free podcasts to catch up on the latest episodes without the ads.
Anthony Christopher, LaDonna's former employer, has never met Dennis McCaslin. Yet Anthony has been the target of this tabloid blog for the last 4 years. So Anthony, did you ever live in Fort Smith, Arkansas?
I have never lived in Fort Smith.
Then why the hell is a blog out of Fort Smith, Arkansas so obsessed with you?
You know, it's funny. You would think that somebody dealing with things in the River Valley, which have some of the highest crime rate in the state, would be focused on things happening in their backyard. But unfortunately, they have been not only hyper-focused on myself, but hyper-focused on other victims that LaDonna has victimized over the last 31 years.
Yeah, because I'm looking at dozens and dozens of screenshots and articles written about you. It's almost like if you lived in this town or had some sort of importance to the area. But why do you think this blog is so focused on you?
Well, I think the answer is really clear where I see it, Javier, and I think that the answer is that it's LaDonna behind us. We've seen posts on X, we've seen posts from Dennis McCaslin, the owner of this rag blog, in which they have stated that LaDonna is a true crime writer for them, that LaDonna works with them. And so it's just so convenient that every time LaDonna seems to have an issue with a victim coming forward, they make not only the top post of their rag blog, but they end up pinning it to the top to further slander and victimize those that she's already victimized.
One might wonder, is this LaDonna writing these posts herself, or is it Dennis McCaslin, who is the owner of the blog? What do you think? Who do you think is behind these messages?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I can tell you in my 6 years of experience with LaDonna Humphrey is that LaDonna's always focused on winning the battle. She's never focused on winning the war, which means that LaDonna gets very sloppy. So several of the things that I've been able to see is where, it's clear that she's an admin of that page. How do we know that? Because at times, LaDonna's mistakenly posting things meant for Oasis of Northwest Arkansas on the rag blog. There's times that she thinks she's posting something personal on her page, and it ends up on the rag blog. And then what you see is moments later, it is then posted on that other page that she manages.
Yeah, and this is not your opinion. I've seen these posts where she thinks she's posting on Oasis, either social media or the blog, and she accidentally posts with this sham blog. And it is evident that she either has back-end access to this blog and its social media accounts, or this guy is just writing these PR pieces for Oasis, which makes no sense. So you're embroiled in this legal battle with LaDonna, and during all of this, as if that weren't enough, this Dennis McCaslin character is posting these terrible articles about you on his website, even though we've already established you've never lived in Fort Smith, you don't ever plan on living in Fort Smith. But let me read you some of the headlines. He wrote articles about your Medicaid fraud cases. He wrote articles about Judge Duncan, who was trying the case and pulling up previous cases that she tried to discredit her. And this is all before the judgment ever even happened, right?
Absolutely, yep.
And let's see, this one, more Medicaid fraud articles with your picture on it. Also, a lot of these articles show pictures of you, and they're not like professional pictures of you, they're just casual pictures of you. But what do you think they're trying to imply with some of the imagery here?
Well, I think LaDonna, through the imagery of what she's doing, I think she's trying to humiliate me. She's trying to embarrass me. I just think that LaDonna's goal is the same. It's public humiliation and slander.
And then she also has pictures of you kissing other men on the cheek, or maybe you with drag queens. And what do you think all that's implying?
I think it's a continual attack on my sexuality. I think, for many years, let's just call it what it is, Javier. I was raised in a very conservative Catholic family. I was living in a very Republican city and area of the state. Being gay was not something that is oftentimes out there and supported. And so, for my own career and my own professional level of success, I had to be able to keep my personal and my professional life separate. And unfortunately, LaDonna used that picture of me kissing my ex-fiance on the cheek as a mode to not only cause me to lose my career at New Beginning Children's Homes, but also as an opportunity to attempt to humiliate me. And the reality is, it doesn't make me any less of a person versus who I love.
One article that the headline is, "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 5-ring primate extravaganza." And it has a cartoon of a ringmaster at a circus with monkeys and 5 of the people who claim that they're victims of LaDonna Humphrey. So it's not just you, right, that she's going after.
Absolutely not. I mean, the thing about LaDonna's attacks is they know no bounds. LaDonna, at the end of the day, feels like she's always got a score to level or to get even. For LaDonna, if anybody speaks out against her, they become target and enemy number one. And that's what's sad about it.
In this blog post, monkey number 1 is your mom. He has a picture of your mom, and even where your mom works, the name of the organization, the address, The suite number? I mean, this is first-class doxing, don't you think?
Oh, 100%. Not only doxing, but I mean, an attempt to, again, public humiliate to shame and then try to affect her professional career.
Monkey number 2 is Lene Heinz, who you heard from in the show earlier. She was somebody who worked with you at your clinic. Monkey number 3 is Rachel Allen Cobb, which is John Allen's daughter, Pastor Allen, whose house caught on fire. But I mean, yeah, this is the kind of content that this blog publishes, right?
Absolutely. And I mean, the thing is it has one goal in mind, and that's pure destruction. The comical part of all of this is nobody's reading it.
Yeah.
Nobody's looking at it.
That's the worst part. It doesn't even show up on Google News Alert. Obviously, his site is such garbage that even the Google bots have deprioritized his page because it doesn't even come up in search. So it's almost like they're writing all these hateful things about people, but at the end of the day, nobody's reading this crap. And in fact, they've gotten really lazy. Some of the most recent posts look like it's not written by Dennis or LaDonna. It looks like it's written by ChatGPT. I mean, I could smell AI writing from a mile away. I found the screenshot where LaDonna thinks that she's posting on this one's a post on Facebook of the Who Killed Melissa Witt page. And Today in Fort Smith retweeted it. They're such a big fan of LaDonna and her work. I mean, Today in Fort Smith not only features mugshots of people who have been arrested, also these defamatory articles about you who have never even lived there, but it's also this promotion vehicle for all of LaDonna's work, right? So he's retweeting the Who Killed Melissa Witt page. He's publishing articles about Oasis of Northwest Arkansas. Can you remind the listeners who are not familiar with that region in Arkansas, is Oasis of Northwest Arkansas anywhere near Fort Smith?
Oasis of Northwest Arkansas is at least an hour and 15 minutes, if not an hour and 30 minutes away from Fort Smith. So nowhere in the vicinity located. There would be no interest in Today in Fort Smith, who's reporting on Fort Smith News, to report anything that's happening in Bentonville, Rogers, or Bella Vista area of Arkansas.
And this sham of a blog also promotes LaDonna's other work, which is Rebuttal Podcast, We Are Not Afraid. They have a link to the trailer. I mean, either this Dennis McCaslin guy is a huge fan of LaDonna Humphrey or there's something else. Like, I just don't understand his fascination with her work and all her drama.
You know, I would be led to believe, and I think we'll find out when we take LaDonna back to court, you know, and IP records show who's actually behind these things, that all along this has been nothing but another vanity press for LaDonna Humphrey.
And you know what's really interesting is that this blog is obsessed with LaDonna and all her work and all her grievances, but you'll never see her byline, you know, like she'll never be the one who wrote the article, right? It's never written by LaDonna Humphrey. It's either written by Dennis or it's written by somebody else. Can you tell me about Sienna Snyder?
Well, Sienna Snyder just came on the scene as LaDonna was being called out as being the author behind these erroneous articles about individuals. And, you know, I use the term article very loosely. I think that Sienna, what's kind of comical is if you were to check the Reddit, you know, the Who's Afraid of LaDonna Humphrey Reddit, you'll see that those internet sleuths have gone in and they have run reverse Google image searches. They've been able to show that's a totally AI generated individual. I mean, it's just sloppy.
So that's what was happening during your court case. Did things ever quiet down as it related to this blog?
I think things definitely did calm down. You know, every once in a while you'd see an update in my case. If the date of the court hearing or the trial had changed, they might give one status update with a jab of slander mixed in. And then again, it did not start back up until after this podcast began to be published. Radio silence. Nothing until Memorial Day weekend after your trailer for Who's Afraid of LaDonna Humphrey came out. And the slander started again.
I've gotten a taste of the attacks too. This blog features multiple articles about me. After LaDonna Humphrey realized that I wasn't producing a puff piece about how wonderful she is, She started digging in, looking for anything incriminating to attack my character and the credibility of my work. This is what they do, right? So I'm almost experiencing what you were experiencing during the height of your trial with LaDonna, and it's very evident that this is LaDonna behind these messages, because why else? I just cannot explain why a tabloid blog out of Fort Smith, Arkansas is concerned about a podcaster in North Carolina. Like, why do people in Fort Smith care about a podcaster in North Carolina?
Right. Or nonetheless, why are articles now coming out about the Allen family again after all of these years?
Right.
Please, John Allen is dead. Let that man's body rest.
And John Allen did not live in Fort Smith, Arkansas, right?
John Allen did not live in Fort Smith.
So why do they care about John Allen? It seems like they only care about the people who LaDonna is obsessed with at the moment.
Absolutely. And because one of the things that I have found really ironic is if you read many of those articles that were written about me, oftentimes it says, we've reached out to LaDonna Humphrey and she refuses to comment because she has a gag order or whatever she calls it. The irony about it is they need no comment because she's the woman writing the article. We're getting a taste of everything that LaDonna feels and thinks by her writing under a pseudonym, which again is all right on par with the same attacks that LaDonna Humphrey is known for: spoof, anonymous, harassing messages.
So that leads me to my next question, because it's pretty transparent to you and it's pretty transparent to me that LaDonna is behind these messages, right?
Absolutely.
Regardless of whether her name or byline is on these articles. Now, you have a permanent injunction against her. Can you not act upon that for her violating the injunction? Is that not a violation of her injunction against you?
It's absolutely 100% a violation of the permanent injunction that I have against LaDonna. And she knows that, which is why she's continuing to utilize Dennis McCaslin and David McClam as her vocal mouthpieces, which she's also been made aware of via my attorney to hers, that's also a violation of this injunction. And so what I'll tell you is I can't say too much now, but we are in the process of taking LaDonna back to court where she will be forced to speak for her actions. And I think, one of the big things that she believes is that she can utilize now a VPN to hide her network. What she doesn't understand or realize is that those VPNs can easily be deciphered and traced back to LaDonna. So whatever she thinks she's getting away with, it may be for the moment. But I think one thing is true in my history with LaDonna is that I'm not going to allow her to continue to get away with victimizing myself or anybody else that she's victimized. It's just not going to happen. So the more she continues, the more she's going to have to stand in front of Judge Duncan and explain to Judge Duncan why she continues to victimize and harass people.
And you're not the only target of this blog. Obviously, I have been as well. But who else has been targeted by this blog?
The Allen family has been a target of this blog, as well as Patty Rush has been a victim and a target. I know Lene Heinz has been a victim. And so I think that the list is just going to continue to go on, unfortunately, until there's somebody putting a stop to her. And I think, Javier, what is just so mind-boggling to me through this is, here's a woman that's been convicted and found in a court of law guilty of doing these things, right? That wasn't enough. While we were going through the legal system, she's viciously attacking other people. She reinvents herself into the nonprofit world, into Oasis, victimizes them, continues these same attacks. And then if you would think that if that was not the pinnacle of all of it, she gets exposed. And I think you said recently over 500,000 downloads or listeners to this podcast is still not enough to put a stop to this woman. Because I think that the reality is LaDonna Humphrey's gotten away with it for 31 years, and she feels that she's untouchable. Unfortunately, her demise is that all these victims have come together, and people know exactly what she's doing. And I think what we'll find here in the near future, that she will be held accountable to those on not just one, but many, many levels. While Dennis McCaslin and David McClam have really done some really kind of crappy things to some of these victims that are stepping forward, there's a part of me that feels bad for them, because I also know that they're actively being victimized by LaDonna, and they have no idea. The things that David is saying, the things that he is firmly believed and rooted in where LaDonna's concerned, are all sourced from anonymous emails to him. And in this situation, yeah, I think David McCaslin is a victim. I think David McCaslin has rooted his whole beliefs on LaDonna based on spoof and anonymous messages that she's sending them.
We left out another person who has been targeted by this tabloid blog, and that is Judge Duncan, right? Because I don't even think we've talked about this on the podcast, and if we have, it's worth mentioning again, but everyone is an enemy in LaDonna's eyes, and this blog is just a reflection of that. Even the judge who tried your case is mentioned repeatedly in this blog, and in one blog post, it actually alleges that you paid off Judge Duncan so that she could award you the $3.5 million judgment. I mean, what is your reaction to that?
I think it's absolutely astounding that you stoop so low that you attack a judge. You know, one of the first things I think that you should never do is attack a judge, especially somebody that carries jurisdiction on your case. You know, I think that LaDonna, again, thought this as an opportunity to get the score even, to get the last laugh in her mind. And unfortunately, she's going to have to pay to those. She's going to have to talk about that. And she's going to have to explain to the judge why she's done these things. Again, when I talk about LaDonna only looking at winning the battle and not the war, she's sloppy. So let's just go through this. You know, they do this rebuttal podcast, and they're saying that I've paid off this judge, which couldn't be any further from the truth. But yet, out of the other side of his mouth, David McCaslin is saying, well, I'm not talking to LaDonna. She's not talking to me. Well, guess what? That apparent deposition or sworn affidavit that they state that they have, that I said these things, was never made public, even to myself or my attorney through the court hearing or thereafter.
Right.
So if he's not communicating.
Right. It's redacted. It says a sworn statement of, and then they redact the person's name. And I actually reached out. This is an actual document that was recorded and by a certified court reporter. I reached out to that court reporter to verify the authenticity of this sworn statement. And yeah, this is a real sworn statement. But we don't know who made that statement. That, like you said, that statement was never given to your attorney or submitted to the courts. So this is just a wild claim that you paid off a judge, which is a serious accusation. And I just wonder, I mean, Anthony, she's now appealing the judgment. And how do you think a judge would receive this information, knowing that she could be behind this hit piece against a judge?
I think that she's in for a very rude awakening. When Judge Duncan's provided all this evidence and all this proof that we have that LaDonna's behind these articles, it's going to be a really bad day for LaDonna Humphrey in Benton County Court. The LaDonna Humphrey fan club has LaDonna Humphrey as the helm of its president, and it's got one other member, and that member is LaDonna Humphrey. She's her biggest and only fan. And so I think that she believes that she can get away with this, and I think that she believes that she can continue to harass and utilize David and Dennis as her vocal mouthpieces. But I think what she's going to find is that the awakening is going to be very abrupt, and it's going to be very difficult. And unfortunately, I still don't think that that's going to be enough for her to stop. It's going to be when she ends up behind bars. And it's not an if, it's a when.
Next time on Pretend, we're going to do a deep dive into Dennis McCaslin. Who is this guy? He seems to be really good at pointing other people's flaws and doing LaDonna's dirty work, but I wonder, does he have a squeaky clean record? I called him to find out.
Well, no, I'm not going to talk to you because you're recording this, and I'm not going to be subjected to your bullshit.
But what are you so afraid of, man? You seem like a pretty, confident guy.
I have an attorney, and he tells me what I can and what I can't say. I'm not afraid of anything. I'm not afraid of you. You're a little punk ass, is what. So
you have an attorney. And, why did you do something wrong?
No. You just need, you need to lose this number and you need to kiss my ass.
Hey, so when the prostitute, that's next time on LaDonna's, the Surrogates. All right, so that was part 1 of LaDonna's Surrogates. Part 2, that's when it starts getting a little spicy. Remember, you could listen to all 4 of LaDonna's Surrogates right now on Pretend Plus on Apple Podcasts or on Patreon. Subscribe for a month, support independent journalism. It's greatly appreciated. All right, that's it for today. Talk to you next week.
Creative Babble.